Calcitonin, a hormone produced by the thyroid that plays a role in regulating calcium levels. Calcium carbonate, chemical that also occurs in limestone and marble. Cambium, a lateral meristem in plants. Types of cambiums include vascular, cork, and intercalary. Campodactyly, a dominant trait in which a muscle is improperly attached to bones in the little finger, causing the finger to be permanently bent. Capillaries, small, thin-walled blood vessels that allow oxygen to diffuse from the blood into the cells and carbon dioxide to diffuse from the cells into the blood. Capsid, the protein shell of a free virus particle. Capsule, structure produced around certain bacteria, structure produced by the bryophyte sporophyte that contains spores produced by meiosis. Carbohydrates, organic molecules composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen that serve as energy sources and structural materials for cells of all organisms. Cardiac cycle, one heartbeat, consists of atrial contraction and relaxation, ventricular contraction and relaxation, and a short pause. Cardiovascular system, the human circulatory system consisting of the heart. Carotenoids, major group of accessory pigments in plants, includes beta-carotene. Carpels, the bones that make up the wrist joint. Carpels, the female reproductive structure of a flower, consisting of the ovary, style, and stigma. Carrageenan, chemical extracted from red algae that is added to commercial ice creams as an emulsifying agent. Casparian strip, in plants, an impermeable waxy layer between the cells of the endodermis that stops water and solutes from entering the xylem except by passing through the cytoplasm of adjacent cells. Cast, type of fossil preservation where the original material of the fossil has decayed and been replaced later by another material, much the way a plaster cast is made in a mold. Catabolic reactions, reactions in cells in which existing chemical bonds are broken and molecules are broken down, generally produce energy, involve oxidation, and lead to a decrease in atomic order. Cell body, in a neuron, the part that contains the nucleus and most of the cytoplasm and the organelles. Cell cycle, the sequence of events from one division of a cell to the next, consists of mitosis or division and interphase. Cell-mediated immunity, immune reaction directed against body cells that have been infected by viruses and bacteria, controlled by T cells. Cells, the smallest structural units of living matter capable of functioning independently. Cenozoic era, the period of geological time beginning after the end of the Mesozoic era 65 million years ago and encompassing the present, commonly referred to as the age of mammals. Centriole, paired cellular organelle which functions in the organization of the mitotic spindle during cell division in eukaryotes. Centromere, a specialized region on each chromatid to which kinetochores and sister chromatids attach. Cephalization, the concentration of sensory tissue in the anterior part of the body, which is the head. Cerebellum, that part of the brain concerned with fine motor coordination and body movement, posture, and balance, is part of the hindbrain and is attached to the rear portion of the brain stem. Cervix, the lower neck of the uterus that opens into the vagina. Chemical equilibrium, the condition when the forward and reverse reaction rates are equal and the concentrations of the products remain constant. Chitin, a polysaccharide contained in fungi, also forms part of the hard outer covering of insects. Chlamydia, a sexually transmitted disease caused by a parasitic bacterium that lives inside cells of the reproductive tract. Chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, chemical substances used in refrigerators, air conditioners, and solvents that drift to the upper stratosphere and dissociate. Chlorine released by CFCs react with ozone, eroding the ozone layer. Chlorophyll, an accessory chlorophyll found in some protistants. Chloroplasts, disc-like organelles with a double membrane found in eukaryotic plant cells, contain thylakoids and are the site of photosynthesis. ATP is generated during photosynthesis by chemiosmosis. Chronic villi sampling, CVS, a method of prenatal testing in which fetal cells from the fetal side of the placenta or chronic villi are extracted and analyzed for chromosomal and biochemical defects. Chromatin, a complex of DNA and protein in eukaryotic cells that is dispersed throughout the nucleus during interphase and condensed into chromosomes during meiosis and mitosis. Chromosomes, structures in the nucleus of a eukaryotic cell that consist of DNA molecules that contain the genes. Chrysophytes, protist division that is referred to as the golden brown algae, includes the diatoms. Cilia, hair-like organelles extending from the membrane of many eukaryotic cells, often function in locomotion. Singular is cilium. Circulatory system, one of 11 major body organ systems in animals, transports oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, and waste products between cells and the respiratory system and carries chemical signals. Cleavage furrow, a constriction of the cell membrane at the equator of the cell that marks the beginning of cytokinesis in animal cells. The cell divides as the furrow deepens. Clitoris, a short shaft with a sensitive tip located where the labia minora meet, consists of erectile tissue and is important in female sexual arousal. Clone, an exact copy of a DNA segment produced by recombinant DNA technology. Codon, a sequence of 3 nucleotides in messenger RNA that codes for a single amino acid. Column, in animals, a body cavity between the body wall and the digestive system that forms during pre-adult development. Colomates, animals that have a column or body cavity lined with mesoderm. Coenzymes, chemicals required by a number of enzymes for proper functioning, also known as enzyme cofactors. Collenchyma, one of the 3 major cell types in plants, are elongated and have thicker walls than parenchyma cells and are usually arranged in strands, provide support and are generally in a region that is growing. Complementary nucleotides, the bonding preferences of nucleotides, adenine with thymine and cytosine with guanine, also referred to as complementary base pairing. Compound, a substance formed by 2 or more elements combined in a fixed ratio. Cones, Light receptors in primates' eyes that operate in bright light, provide color vision and visual acuity. Conifers, group of gymnosperms that reproduce by cones and have needle-like leaves in general, includes the pines. Contractile vacuole, organelle in many eukaryotes that acts as a bilge pump in the active transport of excess water from the cell. Coprolites, fossilized feces. Cork, the outer layer of the bark in woody plants, composed of dead cells. Coronary arteries, arteries that supply the heart's muscle fibers with nutrients and oxygen. Corpus callosum, tightly bundled nerve fibers that connect the right and left hemispheres of the cerebrum. Cortex, the outer part of an organ. Example, the adrenal cortex, which produces several steroid hormones. In plants, the region of the stem or root between the epidermis and the vascular bundles. Cranium, the brain case, composed of several bones fitted together at immovable joints. Cretaceous period, the geological period between the Jurassic period, which is 140 million years ago, and the Tertiary period, beginning 65 million years ago. The Cretaceous was marked by a mass extinction that closed the period along with the reign of the non-avian dinosaurs. Crossopterygians, a type of lobe-finned fish with lungs that were ancestral to amphibians. Crustaceans, a large taxonomic class of arthropods that includes lobsters, shrimps, and crabs. Cyanobacteria, blue-green bacteria, unicellular or filamentous chains of cells that carry out photosynthesis. Cycadioids, a group of gymnosperm seed plants not closely related to but superficially similar to the cycads. Cycads and cycadioids were dominant floristic elements of early and middle Mesozoic landscapes. This group is also known as the Bennett Italians. Cystic fibrosis, an autosomal recessive genetic disorder that causes the production of mucus that clogs the airway to the lungs and the ducts of the pancreas and other secretory glands. Cytokinesis, the division of the cytoplasm during cell division. Cytoplasm, the viscous semi-liquid inside the plasma membrane of a cell, contains various macromolecules and organelles in solution and suspension. Cytosine, one of the pyrimidine nitrogenous bases occurring in both DNA and RNA. Cytoskeleton, a three-dimensional network of microtubules and filaments that provides internal support for the cells, anchors internal cell structures, and functions in cell movement and division.